What's up, guys? It's Josh. Welcome to Storytime Pitches. I'm here with my friend,
Kurt.
Kurt, and this is our first episode. It's actually going to be a Christmas special, which is kind of cool to kick things off for you guys. Now, if you remember our previous episode 0, where we kind of talked about, what this show was going to be, we discussed that me and Kurt used to work together in a big retail store, and we used to work in the camera room catching people steal, and we'd cross over shifts on Friday nights. And it's about an hour and a half, and we would just randomly talk about all these things. And, some of these ideas are going to be past ideas that we're telling you guys right now, including this one. We'll try to keep as much original content as we can, but this one is going to be something that we came up with a long time ago. Well, Kurt came up with a long time ago, and I elaborated on, and it's just too good not to tell you guys.
I definitely think it's one of our best ideas so far. Probably the most thought out so far. Also.
Oh yeah. It's exciting and it's fun, and it's one of those ones that like gets under your skin, but not because of what the movie's about, but because of what the whole premise is. So like working in this big retail store, we won't say the name, but of course they set up all the Christmas stuff in like September. We're walking around, we're trying to keep our Halloween feels. We're wearing our Fright Night shirts and our Evil Dead ash shirts and stuff like that, and we're just like, how does it feel like Halloween now with all these Christmas trees everywhere?
Oh man, like that is the one pet peeve of mine, is just Halloween is so overshadowed by Christmas that it's hard to really get into the Halloween spirit when you walk into any big store and it's just Christmas and then just a tiny little section of Halloween.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I think that a lot of not a lot of movies nowadays have actually like covered that feeling, and I think that's kind of where my initial thought went with this idea.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I mean, usually there's movies that have the Christmas feel and there's movies that have the Halloween feel. There's not really, I can't really think of any that really have both. Maybe Nightmare Before Christmas, which is a classic. And yeah, we're never going to come up with that kind of story, but like we came up with something fun. And yeah, like Kurt came up with the premise of it. I don't know, was it like a dream or just a thought, or how'd you come up with that?
No, that was mainly just by working in that retail store. I mean, I think just after, 3 years, I had just finally gotten to the point where I was just like, every year, I mean, we had a tiny, tiny little section of Halloween, and then Christmas just overshadowed it. And they would do like a tiny table of Halloween and then an entire room of Christmas. And I just hated that. Like, I hated the fact that, it's so overcasted, and I think that's really what, kind of drug on me, not being particularly used to working in a retail store. And I kind of had to get used to that, over the couple of years that I did work there.
Yeah, and like I said, we won't say the name of the store, but it is in the mall, and it is one of those ones that you walk in and you're like, oh my God, it's finally Christmas. But it's like, we have no problem with Christmas whatsoever. It's just like, hey, y'all, give Halloween a chance.
Yeah, it needs its own, it really needs its own section. Like, that's what this movie is going to really elaborate on, is that it needs to be its own time. And
yeah,
to have its own section carved out in, our memories, and, not so much just pushed to the back burner by Christmas. I mean, every big corporation uses Christmas to sell, products. And, yeah, it's the biggest shopping time of the year. So, I mean, I understand it, but it doesn't mean that it's right, I guess.
Yeah, well, especially when, like this store that we worked at in particular, and along with a lot of other stores, you walk in there and it's like, sweet, we're like 10 days away from Halloween, and like everything's already on clearance. And you're like, what? Like, we still have a week and a half till Halloween. Like, I get, like, Spirit Halloween and places like that, like going, clearance on November 1st and 2nd and 3rd. And usually by the 3rd, the whole store's gone. But yeah, like, you're right. They don't even give them a chance. And I think that's what, it's frustrating for a lot of people out there, I'm sure. Like, whether you love Halloween or Christmas, whatever one you like more, you have to admit that, like, usually when you start seeing Christmas stuff at the end of August, beginning of September, it's like, wow, like, really, guys?
I definitely agree. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like my experience. I mean, I think Josh also shares the experience too, that it does kind of weigh on you. Like, if Halloween is your
Jam.
Yeah, your jam, and that makes your entire year. Like, I think everybody kind of has that feeling that, like, why doesn't it, just get its own light and, shine as much as Christmas does.
Oh, for real. I'd be walking through, like, doing a Snapchat, like, dancing, like, in the Halloween stuff, like, I always feel like somebody's watching me. And then, like, I come around the corner and, like, all these Christmas trees are in the background of my Snapshot. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
And actually,
it's only October 15th, but whatever.
And actually, the person that was watching you was me, because I was in the camera.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. All right, so let's get into the story a little bit. So now that you guys kind of know the premise of, like, how we got this idea flowing in the first place, so Kurt approaches me and he comes up with this teeny bit of an idea, and oh my gosh, like, it just blew up, and we had this conversation for, I want to say, like, weeks. Like, every week when he'd come in there, we just, like, elaborated and made it more detailed and more detailed and more detailed. But I'll let Kurt kind of kick it off from the beginning of I guess, what is it called, Kurt?
All right, so it took a little bit of time to get the perfect name, but I think Josh definitely helped me with it. And the movie title is Christmas Stockings.
Like stockings, like you hang by a fire?
No, like stockings, like you're stocking the shelves for a big corporation.
Or somebody stalking you.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. So, if I remember right, it's about a younger, like, girl, female. She's probably like an upper teen, maybe her early 20s. And she works at this hardware store in the middle of nowhere. I think we talked about doing Colorado, because that's where we're from. But, there's like big cities in Colorado, and then pretty much as soon as you get outside of that, everything's a small town. A lot of places don't even have a big store like Walmart or Target. They still run off little hardware stores and stuff. So that's kind of where this girl works.
Yeah. And so obviously, like, I like, when I first imagined the store, I'm like imagining, like, maybe like a tiny little strip of a store, and then, like, at the very end you have this hardware store, and then the hardware store, kind of older, maybe brick, and has like a very, very large window, like windows in the front of it. So a lot of windows.
Some windows and a door.
Yeah, and so you could see throughout the entire hardware store. Because
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of the 80s, like what you've seen in a lot of movies, was that, like, back in the day, they used to have people come in and actually, like, paint on the windows, Christmas trees and, that kind of thing. So I'm imagining it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
And initially, like, I think when I first started thinking about it, like, I wanted the girl to kind of have this feel that she is kind of in a new job, and that she's a newer employee, so she doesn't quite have a lot of pull or a lot of say in the things that are done.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of strikes a lot of with everybody being in a job, and you don't have a say in how things are run and, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, especially in a small town like that. I kind of imagine it like there's like an older guy that runs the shop. He's like, everybody in the town loves him. He's like the uncle that runs the hardware store, and she's pretty much like his only employee, and she only works there, you know, like just to make a little cash to, potentially go to college and things like that. So she's pretty much has to do whatever he says. And he's a nice guy. We kind of set up this idea that on this particular night, which is Halloween night, they get a huge shipment in of Christmas stuff. And this guy, whatever his name is, Jim, we'll say his name's Jim, he owns the shop, and since he's so beloved in this town, he has to go to like the big annual Halloween party. They're going to give him like the key to the town, something really big. Like there's no way he can miss this event. But he also knows that November 1st, everyone's going to be coming in to pick up all the Halloween stuff and all that. And he wants that shop to look Christmas morning, November 1st. So he asks her, well, since I'm not going to be in here tonight, can you stay here, through midnight, overnight, go ahead and set up all the Christmas decorations, lights, spray the windows with the snow on the bottom, like all the cool stuff, make the parking lot look really nice and neat. But yeah, she basically doesn't really have a say. She's kind of like, okay, cool. Like my boyfriend's going to be at the dance thing, but whatever. Yeah, I'll stay and do this. Which, yeah, it resonates with a lot of people. Like sometimes you got to suck it up, especially, working a 9-to-5 job where you don't have a say.
Right. And especially like if it's your first job, sometimes, yeah, as you said, like sometimes you do have to buck it up and maybe even stay a little bit longer to get everything done. But, that's what you're going to do to get that paycheck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've all been there.
And so, yeah, like when she gets the packages out and stuff like that, like obviously, like you're going to see in her face, like this, oh my God, I don't want to be here. This is a lot of stuff to put up.
Oh my God. Why do I have to do this?
Yeah. So, I mean, typical teenager, like, that's a lot of work to put on one person, but, she's obviously going to have an attitude about it. She's not going to be fully committed to doing it. And
yeah, and I mean, she's a good person. She's just like any of us. It's just kind of like, like, are you serious, man? Like, all right, I guess so.
As she's, as quote unquote Jim walks out the door, he's telling her all this stuff like, hey, I need you to get all this, up and done by the morning. So, she's obviously texting her boyfriend to come over, and, she wants somebody to hang out with because she's going to be there late.
Yeah, but he's a douche. He's hanging out with his boys in town, getting ready to get lit and go to the Halloween party. It's like the biggest event of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's brushing her off, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he might even be cheating on her. I don't know. Put that in there.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw that Riverdale drama up in here.
Yeah. We'll call him Brad. He seems
we'll
like
call him Brad. Or Brody.
Yeah,
Brody sounds like, yeah. Sorry, all the Brodies out there, but, Josh is kind of a douche name, too. I don't know why. It just, it tends to be that way. Chad. There's a couple names out there. Basically, if you ever seen a movie where kids are in college and you see the douchebag jock guys, it's probably like a Josh or a Chad or a Brody or a Brad. That rhymed.
Brad. I hear something, Brad.
Forget it, babe. Come back to bed.
Yeah. You didn't hear anything, Emily.
Oh, forget it. I'm going to take a shower and leave. Or whatever guys do. I don't know what guys do.
Hit it and quit it. I mean, that's what like 80% of the movies are. It's just they're there to get some, and then they either get just killed right after, or they just dip.
It would be kind of interesting if we gave Brody a little bit of depth, so he like seems like that on the surface, and then like later on, he kind of shows up to help her, and then maybe things don't turn out so well for him.
Yeah, maybe like he actually is a good guy. Just he has that persona.
Yeah, he's bro around his friends, basically.
But a lover. But a lover.
He's a bro, but a lover. So I actually have something kind of interesting I wanted to read to you. So in my free time at work, I actually wrote up a synopsis. I'm curious if you want to hear it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's kind of only the intro of where this gets into. I think it might be kind of interesting to read it this way.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So this is a basic synopsis, what you would send to Netflix or whoever wants to, anybody out there who wants to pick this up, let us know. We want to be hired as writers. But anyway, this is kind of what you would send to them. So I'll try to read it without, doing a lot of noises and stuff, but we'll see. Okay. So, when stores start putting up Christmas decorations in September, but we haven't even got to Halloween yet? Well, this is what happens when you don't follow the rules of the holiday. On the evening of October 31st, in a small town called Cherokee Falls in Colorado, a shipment of Christmas decorations arrives at the hardware store at the edge of town. The elderly owner, Jim, signs off the boxes just as his young employee, Angela, shows up on her bike for a shift. And I went Angela because, Night of the Demons.
Oh,
Thought it was clever Halloween throwback.
that is clever.
So Jim explains to Angela that he's receiving an award from the mayor and he has to attend the annual Cherokee Falls Halloween party. So Jim hands her the keys and tells her to decorate for Christmas by midnight tonight, even if she has to stay later. He explains he wants it to be a Christmas wonderland in the morning for his shoppers. Angela, slightly frustrated that she will be doing this alone, understands the importance of Jim receiving the honor after all the service he's provided the town. Jim asks Angela if her boyfriend could come help at the place. Angela explains that he's attending the party as well, and she didn't want to take him away from his friends. Jim reluctantly jumps in his truck. Angela wishes him luck as he drives away. Shortly after sundown, Angela begins to unpack the boxes. She loads up the store shelves with beautiful Christmas decorations. She hangs dazzling lights inside and outside the store. Angela really starts feeling the Christmas spirit. She even brews herself some hot cocoa. She spends some time on the landline phone with her boyfriend explaining her situation. So it's like this huge montage of all this Christmas stuff and da-da-da-da-da. She's taking down the Halloween decorations. Maybe we got some Christmas music playing in the background, something like that. Mm-hmm. So later that evening, Angela drags a small tree outside to the front of the store. She sets it in the perfect spot. She bends down to pick up the power cables and plugs them into each other. As the tree illuminates the entranceway in the parking lot, we see a small boy in a creepy Halloween costume standing behind her. She senses someone watching her and spins around, and nothing's there but the forest across the street. She rushes inside and locks the door behind her. She stares out the front window and into the forest, but she convinces herself that it was just the wind. So Angela returns to work as her Christmas music plays in the background. She grabs a can of fake snow window spray, crouches down, and begins to spray the windows. As she hums the song that's playing on the radio, a sudden slam on the window scares her to her core. Angela falls backwards, and she slowly crawls to the window. Although blurry, she sees pumpkin guts on the ground and hears children laughing. As she focuses out further, she sees figures of children standing in the parking lot. Angela uses her sleeve to wipe away some of the fake snow to get a better look. For just a brief second, Angela sees the children are wearing terrifying 1800s-style Halloween costumes as they disperse in different directions into the darkness of the night. Trying to figure out her next course of action, Angela runs to the phone to call her boss. Jim answers, but the music is way too loud at the party. She gets frustrated and hangs up. She attempts to call her boyfriend, Brody. He answers, but Angela begins to explain, but the phone is cut off. She checks her cell phone, but there's no service on this edge of town. A knock on the door grabs her attention. She hesitantly makes her way to the door and clarifies that the store is closed and there is no candy here. She notices candy canes on a shelf, but nervously shrugs it off. So she's walking by hey, the store's closed. There's no candy here. And then she looks to her left and there's candy canes. She's like, oh crap. Okay. So, this is a big tension building thing. So she reaches the door and she opens it really quickly. Nothing. All the children's laughter just dies down. It's just an empty parking lot with Christmas lights kind of blinking at it. Super ominous. The Christmas lights suddenly shut off. Angela turns around looking at the store confused. You know, she's thinking about like, what just happened? Did I blow the fuse? Like, what is going on? So she decides to look up. And of course, it's pitch black outside, so she just sees the clouds. She looks up through the darkness, and she sees a giant witch's cauldron just falling off the roof just silently, like right towards her. And then she barely dodges it. It smashes on the ground, and all these apples like roll out. And she's just sitting there on her butt, just like, what just happened? And then this green goop like slowly slides out of the cauldron, just dripping onto the concrete, the pavement. And then it's smoldering, so there's all this like smoke and stuff coming off of it. And then it slowly like starts making its way towards her like it's alive. She freaks out and she like rushes to her feet and like runs to the door, and like she goes inside and slams the door behind her. And as soon as she closes the door, all the Christmas lights go back on. Now Angela knows the danger she'll face tonight.
That's pretty in depth.
And that's all I got. Yeah, so I mean, it's just the intro. Like it explains kind of what is going to happen throughout this movie.
Yeah, like the crisscross of Halloween and Christmas in this is going to be awesome, and I definitely wanted to have a lot of fun. And I told Josh that, you know, if we actually did get the chance to make this movie, that I wanted to be extremely creative with pulling some ideas from like 80s movies and, you know, some of our favorites, and actually like twist them into
like a modern sense.
Yeah, like a modern, but like totally Christmased out. So you don't get
We
stabbed.
want it to be movies for both people, Christmas people and Halloween people.
Yeah, we definitely wanted that. Just you can watch it either Halloween or either Christmas. And
yeah, perfect Thanksgiving movie.
Oh, we didn't even get into that. I guess we could throw a turkey in there somewhere. Like
that would be amazing.
The turkey spirit.
It's just like a turkey walking across the parking lot like, hey guys, I'm in the movie too.
He just throws like forks and knives at people.
Yeah, like just poops out some stuffing and like keeps walking.
And that's the end of his cameo. Like
he's like, nobody likes raisins.
Where's the cranberry sauce? I'm gonna make you into cranberry sauce.
Okay. All right. All jokes aside, though, yeah. Like, so these kids are creepy AF. Like, they're wearing like those costumes that you see in those scary pictures. If you like look them up on like Bing, but if you look it up on like Bing or whatever and be like, oh, like scary 1800s like Halloween costumes, like they're terrifying what those kids used to wear. Like, because they didn't have stores and all that, so they had to build these things themselves. But these are what these kids are wearing.
Yeah, a lot of paper mache. I think it was made of paper mache back then. So
yeah. I don't even know how they survived when it rained outside.
Just masks melting everywhere.
Oh, that's even more creepy. Like, ugh. But yeah, just imagine being like 20 years old, working in the store all by yourself, having a good old time, putting up all these Christmas decorations. And all of a sudden, these little kids that look like this are just terrorizing you as they're running around the store, like, and like all of these things that they're doing are Halloween related, you know. So like the cauldron falling through the darkness of the sky is, you know, witch's cauldron. Like that's something you would expect on Halloween. And then the apples rolling out, like bobbing for apples, you know. And then the green goop, like everybody loves greens and purples for Halloween. And it just goes on from there. Like, I mean, we've come up with like a lot of ideas for the story, but that's the basic idea of it.
Yeah, like I think the what I wanted to happen is, you know, as these kids actually do get into the actual hardware store.
Oh, you know they getting in.
Oh, they get in. I don't know exactly how they're getting in, but they do get in. I mean, they are kind of, I don't know. I think are they considered spirits at this point?
I don't know. Maybe we leave it ominous. That would be kind of cool though. Like so when you first see them, you're like, oh, this is a bunch of little jerk kids. And then like as the movie goes on, you could be like, maybe there's something a little more here. Like, how are they doing some of this stuff? Like, how do they disappear like that? How do they get on the roof so fast, you know?
Right. And but obviously, but at the time that they do get in, she's already stocked, a couple of the shelves with Christmas, ornaments and
Bulbs.
bulbs, decorations, that kind of thing. And so I did want to show like the resentment that these kids have towards Christmas. And so
Oh
as
yeah,
they
follow the rules, y'all.
yeah, that's right. Like as they are going along, they're pushing off everything that she's put onto the shelves. They're destroying it, they're walking on it. They're really, taking the time to actually destroy these, you know, products and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I can imagine them like punching gingerbread houses and then stealing the candy cane and just shoving it through their mask and eating it all, and then looking back at her,
That would be
just
awesome.
creepy stuff like that.
Yeah, like they love candy. Love candy.
Yeah, dude, I imagine this shot in the trailer. I think explained this to you before when we were talking about this, but it's almost like once they get in the store, Angela's on the ground and she's kind of like backing up like slowly, and this like little girl comes around the corner and we film it from like low, like we film the ground, and it's just like the bigger Christmas light bulbs, they're like laying in a string around the ground. And you just see like from pretty much like the bottom of her dress down to her shoes and the floor, and she's just like doing like that little kid hop where she hops up and both feet slam down at the same time. She crushes like one of the lights and the light goes out. She jumps up and does it again as she's like creeping towards her. Like I just imagine that in the trailer or something, being like, oh my god, like this movie is gonna be amazing.
Oh yeah, like and yeah, it's like that little puddle hop that kids do. That just little tiny
puddle hop,
jump.
that's a good word for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But maybe like she's like puddle hopping. There's blood underneath, so it just splashes with it.
Or yeah, just like a couple little splatters on her shoes just to add to the element. And it's like she hasn't killed anybody at this point, but where did that come from? Like, who else disobeyed the rules of Halloween? I know we're getting a little Trick or Treat with the rules thing, but at the same time, Trick or Treat is an amazing movie, and the rules already existed before that movie existed. So this is a real point.
I mean, and that's what I would really like to just hit home with is that, maybe there are some rules, and I hope that, because of this girl's experience, maybe not like, does she live or does she not live? But if she does live, then obviously, maybe later on we could do a second film, and maybe she does know the rules now, but she now has to basically be that spokesperson to tell everybody like, hey, like we can't do this. Like you can't do this anymore, because if you do, then this is the consequences.
Wow. When you were saying that, when you first started, I had this thought like, what if like real people watch this movie and they're getting ready to like set up their stores in real life, and they're just like, dang, like, have you guys seen Christmas stockings? Like, we probably shouldn't set this up yet.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Like,
we're not telling stores to like not do it. It's just a fun idea, but like, could you imagine like just some like young kids that are like working at some retail store that are tasked with this exactly like this, and they're just like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna leave for the day. I'm not I'm not feeling so good.
yeah, I got the Rona. I got the Rona.
I got the Rona.
I got the Rona today.
I just got it. I just found out like 5 minutes ago. I got my email.
Oh man, that I mean, honestly, that would be so cool to have just like half of the United States, just like, you know what, like I don't think that we should do this year. Like, maybe this movie does like push some people's thoughts a little bit further as to like what the spirit of Halloween and the spirit of Christmas is to people. Like maybe drive home the fact that the spirit of Halloween is as much alive as the spirit of Christmas.
Oh yeah, and it used to be the opposite of that. Like you had to celebrate Halloween to keep the spirits away, like the bad spirits from entering your home and stuff. I mean, that's what jack-o'-lanterns are for. Like, so it's like people forget that that's where all these traditions came from.
Right. And I think that it kind of has like I mean, all the horror that is going to be in the movie and all the blood and the everything that's going to be associated with the movie. I think as long as you have a good solid premise as to what we're trying to drive home here, I think that's what's going to make this movie something that you would want to watch every year, because
Oh yeah.
I want to show the spirit. And I think not a lot of movies, especially horror movies, have like a good solid premise to it. And
Oh yeah, and they lose it. They always lose it. Like they might start good, and then halfway through, you're just like, oh come on, like really, And we want this to be a smart movie. Like, yeah, she's young, but like, imagine if you weren't dumb. Like you were literally just stuck in an impossible position, and you were completely surrounded in this hardware store, and you have no idea how many's out there. Like you've seen like 3 or 4 of them, but there could be more. Like you don't know. Not to mention the not saying that they're supernatural. I think we leave that kind of ominous, but like just the supernatural abilities behind how fast these kids are moving. I think that would be pretty interesting to do that. Like you don't really see too many movies where you're like, dang, like, oh, you dumb doing this. Like, no, like you watch this movie and you're like, wow, like she's actually really smart, because if I was in this position, that's exactly what I would have done. It just it's just these kids are way too smart for that. And they're always like 5 steps ahead of her. So like I think that would make it even more terrifying. Like if an audience can watch that and not get frustrated at how dumb the main character is, because there's nothing you could have done. Like that's exactly what you would have done in real life. It just didn't work out because these kids are way smarter than you.
right. And I definitely want to show her, like, trying to get away. Like, obviously this girl does not want to be in this position. She didn't want to be in the position to begin with. So why is she going to try to stay there? But, it's like at every turn she tries to get outside, or maybe she even does get outside. These kids, as you said, are way ahead of her, and, they drag her back into this. And, I think, like, what were we saying? Like halfway through the movie, like her boyfriend actually does end up showing up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be pretty nuts if she actually like got out. I didn't think about this the first time we talked about it, but like now that you're saying it that way, like imagine she is able to sneak out somehow. Like so these kids get inside, she like knocks him over the head with like something in the store. Like she pushes the register over and like knocks one of them out, and then the other one she just like grabs him and like freaking chucks him or something. I don't know. And then she like runs outside. And she's just running out, and she has to run through the parking lot, get to the main street. She starts running down the main street, and of course, the further away she gets, the hardware store with all the Christmas lights is like shrinking in the background, and she's running more towards the darkness, the forest. And as this is happening, she's looking behind her, and she's all out of breath. And then, like, imagine that her boyfriend actually did get the call. Like, he knew something was up, and he showed up to be a nice guy. And he, like, comes driving down the road right in front of her, and she's throwing her hands up, hey, stop. And he just flies past her, not realizing that it's her, and then like he stops like, 4th mile down the road, like, wait, like what was that? And then like he gets out of the car and he's like looking down the street. He's like, Angela, Angie, whatever, is that you? Like, she's like, Brody, come back. Like, don't go over there. Like, he's like, what? I can't hear you. Like, as this is happening, and like these kids just like freaking crawl out of the grass, like, and like drag him down and like, just completely myrtleize him, like right there. So yeah, there's blood and guts and all these things flying all over. Like, yes, Angela might survive, but that doesn't mean there doesn't have to be casualties along the way. I mean, this is a horror film. So, just imagine her being out there like in the darkness, and his 4-ways are on, like, and she's just sitting there like, no. And like, you just see like the lights flashing on just her, like reacting. And then like all of a sudden, like everything stops and it's just complete darkness. And she's like, oh my God, like, what do I do now? Like, do I run another like mile and a half into town, or do I run right back to the store? So yeah, it kind of definitely gives incentive of her having to keep going back to the store.
Oh, well, maybe the spirits don't kill them or don't kill him in the middle of the street. Maybe they get him and they start dragging him back to the store,
Ooh.
which leads her back to the store. And so then now she's having to break into the one thing that she doesn't want to do. She doesn't want to go back there, but are you just going to allow your boyfriend to just keel over?
Yeah.
So
I would.
peace out, Brody.
That would be nuts though if they like dragged him back and then like the reason that the light stopped is because they took the keys too, so she can't use the car.
Oh yeah, that would be us. Like, yeah, that would suck too. So then the car is just sitting in the middle of the road, which is gonna, cause more people probably like some people just driving by like, well, what the hell? Who left their car in the middle of the road? Like,
who's this guy?
Yeah, who is this man?
I want to know his information.
Yeah, so then maybe that could lead into some other people, obviously going right next to the store, which is going to turn out, bad in their situation.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine if there was like real trick-or-treaters that actually showed up? But she's already like super terrified, but they're totally wearing like, Captain America costumes and like totally normal kids, and she's just like screaming at them like, go away! Leave me alone! Ah! Like, and these kids are just like, that lady's crazy. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, they're like, your costume sucks. Like, this isn't even a haunted house.
Yeah, like that was like literally her only saving grace. Like she totally could have like had people come down here and save her if she would have been nice to these kids.
Like, just please tell your parents, please.
Yeah, she's like, no, come back, wait. Cap, Iron Man, you don't have to fight anymore.
Can you please just assemble for me?
Assemble.
Oh man!
All right, we're getting a little off topic, but oh, that was great.
Honestly, I think like putting some kids in there, like some actual trick or treaters, like maybe they're the trick or treaters from the beginning, where they're like, like maybe they did knock on the door, and then she's like yelling at them, saying there's no candy, and these kids are actually like legitimate, like they just like walked off because they heard her say there's no candy here, and so
yeah, but okay.
But then, like, they know because they just seen it sitting on the shelf. Like
they were in the store the whole time.
Yeah, kind of thing. Oh, that could lead into, like, the mystery of, like, are these kids real or are these kids not real? Like, who is real, who's not real?
Yeah, and that would lead to the anonymous thing that we leave it at the end. Like, you don't really know what happened tonight. It was just terrifying. That I imagine like her being covered in like her boyfriend's blood, like, glass shards in here, like light bulbs and things like that, like just literally like laying on the floor. They left her alive so she remembers that she is supposed to follow the rules and she can spread this to other people. Jim comes in the morning with his like spare key, opens the door, like, oh, store looks terrible. Like, what happened here? And then he sees her on the ground, I think that'd be nuts, and then all the cars start pulling up for shopping and stuff. And then she comes outside and she's all like holding herself, like all bloodied up. And, she's like, don't ever set up Halloween before Christmas. The children will come for you. Like, I know we laugh about it, but like, honestly, I think that'd be like really sweet if like everybody in the town was just like, what? Like, she's crazy. Look what she did to this place. They're all whispering to each other. Pss, 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 pss. And it's like, nah, like she's telling the truth. And then everybody just thinks she's crazy. I think that'd be a really good way to end the movie.
Yeah. And that's like a really good setup to like, I mean, that's almost like a really good setup, like any classic, like horror, like, Halloween,
yeah, the Ring.
He's the boogeyman. Like, it's just like you have that one person that has experienced it and is trying to save everybody else, but then they just look at her like, yeah, right, okay, like, nobody's gonna believe her. But until like the next year it maybe even in that same town, maybe the town next to it, like the same thing happens, and it just becomes this like lore of the town that you clearly don't put up Christmas before Halloween.
Yeah, like this has happened every year ever. It's just for whatever reason, since they left this one alive, she was able to go outside and warn the town, but still nobody believes her. But yeah, that'd be a great idea if we did like a sequel and it was almost in like the store that we worked at, that it's like a team of people that have to stay overnight in this big department store setting up all the Christmas stuff, and these kids come after them in this huge store. So now we're dealing with multiple victims, and we're dealing with everything like elevators, escalators, like a mall. Like, could you imagine the possibilities?
Oh my god, that would be huge.
And if their thing was they only leave one person alive too, like to spread the rules basically.
I mean, like, how many people work at night on a normal? Like, how many people work at night? Like 20?
I don't know. I guess it depends because like in our store, just a closing shift, we'd have like anywhere from like 20 to 30 people working in there. But imagine if they called them in like, oh, okay, well, we got a little behind this year doing this and this and this, back to school sales, and we have to get the Christmas stuff up tonight. Like district managers on us, like this and this, like we got to get this up. So it's literally the same situation where they have to stay overnight. And of course, anything you do before midnight is is free for all for these kids. Oh, that would be another cool thing is like right before these kids are actually about to kill her, the clock strikes midnight, so it's November 1st. And they literally just drop everything. So they drop their sharp candy canes and like all these things, and then they just turn around, they pick up their like candy pails off the floor, or not even candy pails, they'd be like freaking pillowcases, like old school woven together pillowcases. They like burlap. Drop everything. Yeah, burlap cases, and they pick them up off the ground, and they just like slowly make their way out the door and just wander into the forest across the street. And she's just sitting there like on the floor like and then just passes out. And then the next thing you know, you hear the keys in the door, and then Jim opens the door. Like that'd be really cool if we left it like that. So like right at midnight, like you made it.
Yeah, like she like surpassed, like, usually people don't last this long, but obviously we want her to be a little bit more on the ball than most horror films, I guess. Like pretty much everybody, yeah, as you're saying, everybody's stupid in a horror film, so it'd be nice to actually have somebody that is on top of it, like clearly thinks about things. So
oh yeah, I mean, and like you said, if we did a sequel and it was a bunch of kids in a mall, like you're gonna have your typical horror movie. You're gonna have the stoner, you're gonna have the jock, you're gonna have the pretty girl that had to get a job because whatever. Like you're gonna have all those categories that you would usually have. So that one we could have a little bit more typical slasher film fun with. But this one, we'd want to be the cult classic, the one everybody goes back to. Like, dang, like Christmas Stockings is legit. Like the second one is pretty good, but you gotta watch the first one. Like this is exactly why I don't think we've seen a Trick or Treat 2 yet.
It's hard to top, like, I mean, especially Trick or Treat. It does a very good job, and just the way it's set up, that would be really hard to try to like come close or even try to top it. So, I mean, yeah, like obviously, like, you'd probably like you want to do a sequel that's just as good, but expectations probably aren't going to be as good as the original. And
oh yeah, and you can't just duplicate what you did in the first movie.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit more free and open, unless you come up with some, like, I mean, I don't know, I got plenty of time on my hands. I can think of some really good stuff. Like,
well, we got a trilogy going on now.
Oh boy.
Like the third movie is like Christmas Stockings 1864 or something like that. It's like when these kids actually died and how they died.
Oh man, yeah, and then, and actually, I now you just said that, like, I just I remember talking to you about like making these characters, some iconic characters, like a lot of other horror films, you can tell like they pulled a lot from other movies that have been successful.
Yeah, like their
And
influences.
yeah, and I think doing something like this, like you would really want to go really deep with, creating something that's completely different. And I think that's what I talked to you about is we definitely have to sit down and really knock out some good solid characters and really base that
Oh yeah.
around them.
No, I think that's a good idea. Like I think if we did it right, it could get to the point where like those masks were being sold at Spirit Halloween and stuff like that because they're so unique and iconic that you immediately like, oh my gosh, that's the Christmas stockings mask. Like,
That would be like the highlight of my life, to create something
right?
that everybody like, immediately just walks in and sees it on a shelf and it's like, oh, that's Christmas stockings. Like,
Well, going back to Trick or Treat, so we're in 2020 now. That movie came out in 2007, right? So 13 years ago. This is the first year that they've actually had the kids on the bus, like the Dracula and all those masks, the bunny mask and all that. This is the first year that they've had those masks in stores. Like we've seen Sam around for a while. I think I had a Sam mask in like 2013, 2014.
mhm.
But still, like considering that that was like 7 years after the movie came out, and we're talking 13 years later that we're finally getting the old school looking plastic masks that the kids had on the bus. That's insane. Like that's what a cult movie does though, Like could you imagine like a Ash vs. Evil Dead mask or just anything that was like not like postponed because people didn't get it? you
Right.
know like you can talk about so many movies like Slither, for example. Like everybody hates that movie, and if you're a true horror fan, you love that movie and you understand what James Gunn did for that movie. And then as soon as James Gunn gets hired for Guardians of the Galaxy and all these movies, like everybody knows who he is. And
Hmm.
it's like, wow, guys, like welcome late to the party because this has already been going on for a while. Like you guys just realize how awesome these movies are. And I think Christmas Stockings is probably set up like that. Like I wouldn't doubt it's kind of one of those ones that people are just gonna be like, oh yeah, like another horror movie, blah blah blah, and it just kind of goes under the radar. And then once it hits, video on demand, well, this would probably be a straight to video, to be honest, but straight to VOD. But
Straight to
yeah, when that
VHS.
happens, straight to VHS. But yeah, and then like once people start getting it and it starts becoming this huge underground thing, like, oh yeah, dude, I could see it being huge. I mean, like, is there any other movies out there that do this? Like that literally are just like, yo, like you cannot do Halloween or you cannot do Christmas before Halloween. Like there's no movies that do that. And there's movies that talk about it. I'll give you that. But there's no movies that are about that specifically that are just like, yeah, this is like, if you do this, you are going to die.
Right. And I mean, maybe like if we did do a second movie, maybe we could actually maybe go a little bit further as to like why, maybe not touch base with it on the first movie, but like really go into
Oh
the
yeah,
reason why it is. Like what it was it about this first movie that really set off this chain for these kids to come to that store directly. Like there's obviously a
yeah,
sin in there somewhere that was a little bit surpassed all other, people doing this. So what is it?
yeah. Like why are they doing this?
Yeah. And I think that would be another really interesting thing is like to have maybe the main character figure out is like maybe she's a little older now. She's told everybody like, hey, you can't do this kind of stuff, but she's still trying to figure out like what it is initially that they did to get these spirits to this tiny little town when there's other big stores that do it even worse.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got like a mystery aspect to it. But like I was talking about The Ring earlier, like how she goes through the whole process of trying to figure out like why she's doing this, like how do I stop it, blah 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 blah. Like, oh, I go down the well and I find her body, blah blah blah. Like it would be interesting if there was like hints of the lore, but we never really addressed it. And I mean, I like the idea, but I still don't feel like we should answer everything because I feel like I've seen too many movies that it's really great premise. And then once they explain why it's happening, it's like you guys ruined it. Like the mysteriousness and all these things going into it, that's what was creepy. That's where the feel was. That's what made this a cult classic. And all of a sudden, Michael Myers was just kidnapped as a baby, put a tattoo on him, and blah blah blah. Now the rest is history. Like what? Like no, like it's way scarier when Michael Myers just comes back for no reason and there's no explanation.
Yeah.
And he only hunts his family. There's no explanation. Like as soon as you explain it, sometimes it loses the charm. And I think it would be cool to give people hints of the explanation. You know, I'm a huge Lost fan, so anybody out there who's seen Lost, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whether you loved or hated the ending, that's irrelevant because they didn't answer all the questions. And you have to admit that even after all this time, there is still so many questions that you're glad that they didn't answer because it makes it worth watching again to try to figure it out. And although the answer may or may not be there, it still has repeat value. Like you said, Kurt, like it's a tradition to watch Christmas stockings every like October 31st. Like when you're done trick-or-treating, you come home and you know that you have to watch this movie before midnight because, you know, after midnight, they're going to come get you.
And yeah, like, I mean, my initial thought with this is that I would love to make it as iconic as, say, like the Christmas Story. Like, whether you like it or not, I mean, there's a reason why it's played on repeat for in the entire Christmas day on certain channels. And
Yeah.
but it has that premise. It has a premise of what it's really trying to drive home is that, you know, no matter like what the chaos is in your life, like on Christmas, you have your family, you have those traditions, and that's what's really like that's what really is important about Christmas. And everything else is like a side story.
Yeah, and we would definitely include something like that in the movie. Like we said, we want it to be a good movie that you watch for Christmas or Halloween. You know, if you're a horror fan for Christmas movies, I mean, there's tons of Christmas horror movies out there, but this would have to find a good balance between being both. You know, so I think her setting up all the Christmas stuff, the Christmas music playing in the background, all these things really contribute to the Christmas factor of the movie. And of course, you know, the following morning when she's in the town and all the families show up and, you know, they all care about what's happening, but she's just like, nah, like you get out of here, like they're gonna come back. Right. Yeah, so and I think she's just insane, but yeah, like you gotta hit everything, and I think that's what's gonna make it really iconic is if you nail that on the head, making it a movie you could watch on Christmas Eve and appreciate it just as much as you could watch it on Halloween night and appreciate it.
Right. And I think just because they're so close together, you know, you have to admit, like, I mean, Halloween is kind of the kickoff to, you know, a lot of belief and, you know, spirits. And, you know, I think without Halloween being before Christmas, you don't really have that insight to, like, how whimsical and, you know, magical Christmas is, you know, Halloween has this kind of like eerie aspect to it, but like then you get Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving's mainly about family, and then Christmas is, you know, very spirit based and, you know, very family oriented. So I think it's a good contrast to pushing a lot of spirit, and I think that if you did this movie correctly, it would almost give people that sense of like, you know, like it is good to believe and it's good to have a belief in.
Yeah.
And, you know, like this kind of kicks off a lot of, you know, that.
I like that. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's the Christmas spirit and all. So
that's right.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to explain it.
And I think if we did get the chance to do this and do it correctly, I mean, I'd have no doubt in my mind that people would watch it every year. I think that it's just a solid premise. I mean, obviously, like, you helped me write it, and I've thought a lot about it, and I've written a lot of things about this movie, and so it's kind of like the baby child of a lot of my ideas, and it does kind of give me like that like push to like want to create more, because I want like everything that I create to be just as solid.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this film, although it's a campy horror film, it has a lot of depth to it. I think it's a depth on her being alone, during the holidays, and just not having her family there. I mean, her family's not really explained in any of this movie, and I think that shows some kind of significance. Instead she's leaning towards her boyfriend and her boss and things like that. Of course, the boyfriend, seems kind of douchey at first, but he still shows up. He tries to save her, and although it doesn't work out for him, it shows a lot of character driven story within this. And of course, her being smart to begin with also helps. And then there's lack thereof or supposedly supernatural aspect to the story, whether it's, these kids being ghosts or whatever. Like, I think we just don't explain it. Like, maybe they're real kids that just decided to take it upon themselves to do this to somebody. But I think it kind of hits all of it, and it has a lot of depth, even as a horror movie, because it is like intergenerational. I think is a good word for it, because everybody has experienced the thought of, why are we doing Christmas before Halloween?
Yeah.
And it's been a thing for the longest time. Back in the 80s and stuff, or where we grew up, it's like Halloween was a little bit more prominent in the 80s. Like, yes, Christmas still took over Halloween no matter what. But like growing up in the 80s, it was like mandatory to like decorate your house. Like every house on the street was decorated. Like at school, you get to wear your costumes to school, and you get to have candy, and you get to trick or treat in all the different classrooms and things like that. But it's like nobody cares anymore. And this is pre-COVID. Like, still nobody cares anymore. Nobody has cared for like 15, 20 years. Maybe in the 90s they did, but it's like everything just died down. Like Disney Channel would have 2 or 3 new Halloween movies every year that were iconic movies we still talk about to this day. Mom's Got a Date with the Vampire, Don't Look Under the Bed,
Halloween Town.
Yeah, Halloween Town 1, 2, and 3. But like, it's like there was a time where it all died off, and I don't know if it was just because parents got scared and like didn't want to let evil into their homes, or like whatever the excuse was. It had a complete like lack of representation, and everything turned to Christmas. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I love Christmas just as anybody else, but it just wasn't the same. And kids today, kids that were growing up in the 2000s, they will never experience what we experienced growing up. And I love movies and shows that are trying to bring that back. Whether it's summer horror or like Halloween horror, Christmas horror, like they all just had a certain feel that it's like people just fail to capture now. It's like they'll write a movie about it or a show, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares because it doesn't have that feel. It doesn't transcend what you expect when you watch something and you want to feel something.
Right. And well,
like
I was going to say, like, as you were talking about that, like, I think maybe the reason why people maybe didn't care or they don't care as much is that you look at Christmas and the gifts that you get for Christmas. Well, as we've grown up, we have gotten a lot of technology now, and everything is technology based, and you don't have that when it comes to Halloween. It's like, yeah, we have some like little animatronics that, kind of come up and, they're kind of cool, but they're, you can see, I think especially with like Spirit, as much as they drive home Halloween for a lot of people, I think if Spirit Halloween Store actually took the time to really, really make these products like legitimate and, a little bit higher quality made things. I mean, I know that it takes a lot of time, but that timing that you put into your products definitely resonates with the people that do buy them. And I think that, the Christmas items, toys, stuff like that have gotten most of the meat and potatoes, and they've really drove home a lot of toys. You look at a lot of toys nowadays they're just amazing. They're like, holy crap, like I wish I had a toy like that when I was a little kid. Well, they don't do that with Halloween. They don't spend the time and effort and the extra love to give those little animatronics some like, good material. Like, they have the plastic kind of cheap material, and then everything else is kind of plasticky, and they shake around a little too much. And, you just wish that back in the 80s, like a lot of the masks that you used to get, you had like your run-of-the-mill masks, and then you had a counter with like 60 masks up the top of it that were just amazing. Like these were amazing high-quality masks. And
there's still websites that sell masks like that, but you're paying $90 for a mask. You'd go to the store and pay $20 for that thing.
Yeah.
And I get that, the whole money difference between now and then is a thing, but still like $90 today would have been like $60 back then. So a $20 mask back then, the masks that you're paying for now, you still would have paid $50-$60 for. And that's crazy. And I would definitely agree with you on that. And I will never forget, I was at a Halloween store. I don't remember what store it was. It definitely was not Spirit. And I was with my wife, girlfriend at the time, Brittany. We went into the store, and I found this little keychain ghost. And it makes this sound that like all the 80s Halloween toys used to make. The little witches you'd hang above your porch and stuff like that. But you got to check this out. Listen. Tell me if this isn't iconic, Kurt. Like, do you guys remember this sound?
Oh my God, yes, I do remember. Like,
this
everything.
This is Halloween. And then like you walking around and like having like the skull suckers in your mouth that are like half purple, half white.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't even make those anymore. Those are so amazing. Whoever makes those, if you ever listen to this podcast, you make those again, or we're coming after you.
Yes, please just sell the molds back to a big company so they can make those again.
Something, yes. Like we need those. Like it is absolutely insane that we haven't seen those in like 10 years. But yeah, like I miss what Halloween used to feel like. And this movie would kind of be like a love letter to, hey, we need that back.
Please.
Yeah, like, we need those ecto coolers for Halloween, like all of it. And yeah, we love Halloween. I will definitely say we love Halloween more than Christmas, but that doesn't mean we don't appreciate Christmas. It's right there with it. It's just getting overshadowed. It needs a little bit of love from both sides. And I think it would even be kind of cool to do a reverse of that. Like if you haven't set it up early enough, like, the elf on the shelf's coming after you or something.
Oh, yeah, that gives me some ideas. I can go with that.
All right. It doesn't have to be elf on a shelf, but just imagine if Santa's elves were real and they don't always live in the North Pole.
They're in your town. Dun dun dun.
And then the third movie is like these like ghost kids in Halloween costumes versus elves. It's like the Battle Dome.
Thunderdome, but
the
with
Battle
elves.
Dome.
We could do turkey on a shelf, like, I don't know, Thanksgiving.
The turkey on the shelf.
Thanksgiving hasn't had anything good come out
It's
yet.
like stuffing on the ground. This is like a new thing. You just like walk around like, oh, he slipped on the stuffing.
Oh, and we can call it the stuffing.
The stuffing. Oh my god, that was great.
Do you stuff it or does it stuff you?
Find out this Easter.
Oh, don't even get me started on Easter.
Oh yeah. We'll save that for another podcast.
Well, if you want to hear more about the stuffing or an Easter horror film, please just let us know in the comments.
Yes. Yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed what we've done today. Like I said, this is kind of an old movie that we came up with, but we do have a lot of original ideas that we will come up with on the spot. But every now and then we're going to throw you an older idea and just elaborate on it a little further. So we appreciate everybody for listening.
Definitely. And I hope you guys do share and subscribe. And I hope you guys did enjoy just a little peek into what could be potentially a very, very good film. And I hope you guys maybe even come back maybe next Halloween, and maybe we can do an update and continue with the story a little bit more.
I think I should definitely mention that although this is the first episode of the season and it kind of seemed like a really strong one, they're all going to be awesome. We have so many ideas that are just as fulfilled as this one. So definitely come back and listen to our next episode. Like, we love you guys. We're so glad that you tuned in. And I'm Josh. This is Storytime Pitches.
And I'm Kurt. And we will see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.